Okay, this is a quick video to kind of review the Greenfield time clock starter file that's available on the website. It's very basic, and it's really just kind of meant to give you an intro as to how you might be able to implement um, time entry or time capture type fields. These are fields that you might incorporate into, say, an employee time clock solution. It might be in a job log type situation where you want to capture the amount of time that an employee worked towards a job log or towards a specific job or a specific type of activity. There's lots of different ways that you could do that. So I just kind of kept this real basic so that it could give you a head start. This is the part where a lot of people struggle to begin with. So I just kind of want to walk you through what is in this and how it works, but also kind of outline what's not here. Um, so this is just to give you an entry level look at capturing time records. So for the sake of this entry, or for the sake of this file, I've just given you a button. You can click on New Entry. When you get a new entry, you'll see that you automatically get an ID. It's just referred to as a PID, a punch ID. But then you have an in and you have an out. Okay, so if you were to click the out, it's letting you know you can't punch out because you haven't punched in. So it's got some basic logic built in there that kind of prevents the user from doing things the wrong way. You've also got, when you click on the start, you'll notice that it puts in the date and the time. Okay, and then whenever you go to the stop, it will do the same thing. And upon finishing the entry of that same thing, it is going to plug in the duration and the duration decimal. I'll explain those in just a moment. But if we click the stop, you'll see that my duration there is about 25 seconds. Um, it's not a great example, so I'm going to go ahead and manually change these times. In your solution, you're probably going to want to make sure these fields are locked. So an employee or just a user of your system can't go in and change something. But if I change this to say 10 a.m., then you'll see that now I'm sitting at an hour and 25 seconds. Okay, so I've got two different values down here. Just to clarify what these values are. This first value is a duration, a time duration. Basically, you could rename this time if that makes more sense, but it's hours, minutes, seconds that have passed in between the time that they started that activity and the time that they stopped that activity. The second value, though, is sometimes more useful. This is more useful for an actual user because it's written in time. Sometimes, though, for your reporting, this value is going to be more useful, and this is a decimal equivalent in hours. So this would be the number of hours that have passed between the start of the activity and the end of the activity. So, for instance, on this first record, you'll see 30 minutes passed, which equals 0.5 hours. Okay, and then you'll see on this one an hour and 45 minutes passed, which in decimal equivalent is 1.75 hours. So this decimal is pretty handy because then if you need to add up the number of hours so that you can charge the right amount to customer A or customer B or whoever, or if it's a time clock solution so that you can make sure that that employee gets paid for the right number of hours, you're going to need this value. And rather than trying to figure out this value and then do some calculations, this solution gives you both right here, and then you can actually do a summary on either one. So again, the solution, these buttons run scripts. These scripts are listed up here. So we got punch in, okay? I'll explain this in just a moment, but punch in and then punch out. And then the new entry is the script attached to this button. Okay, so punch in if empty. That's a secondary script that I gave you, and here's why I gave you that. Um, Remember when I clicked this, it punched in the current timestamp today, and as well as the time. Whenever I clicked this, it did the same thing, and only 26 seconds had passed before I actually manually changed this. Now, if I were to click this again, you'll notice it now plugs in the current timestamp again and uh, changed it to, you know, a little bit more. So now it's like 3 minutes and 36 seconds uh, plus an hour, 3 minutes, 36 seconds. The point here is that by clicking this button again as a user in the system, I can write over my existing entry. You may or may not want that in your solution. In fact, I imagine in most cases you probably don't want that. But I've given you both options here. Um, so for instance, if we were to attach the script called punch out if empty, then what it does is it does some extra logic and checks to make sure that this is empty before it lets you operate that. So it would look something like this: punch out if empty, and you'll see it did nothing. So it does nothing because it's already got a value in there. So that might be the one you attach to this button instead of the other, but I've just given you both scripts. In addition, within those scripts, I've I've put in some notes to kind of let you know what it's doing and why, so that you can kind of see the logic that's being run in there. For instance, in the punch in, I'm inserting the calculated results, which are going to be, into the in field, and I'm getting the current host timestamp. Okay. And then once I do that, I'm committing the records. That's basically all this script does. But in the punch in if empty, it's got a check here to check and see if that field is empty. If it is empty, okay, if this test equals true, then it does these steps. Otherwise, you can see it does nothing. So that just gives you a quick way to kind of decide which one of those makes the most sense for you and assign that to your buttons. Of course, you can change these all you want and add extra steps and have it do additional things, but those are the scripts that actually do some work for you. The other thing you could do is, I wanted to point this out. This is punched in at 10:18 and then 11:21. So yes, that's a little over an hour. If I were to manually change this to 9, okay, and then tab out of that field, you'll see that my duration and duration decimal equivalents changed. Um, Depending upon your solution and your needs, it is possible that you might want to run the calculation during this script, during this punch out script, and insert that into this field uh, rather than having this field auto calculate all the time. When you get a solution where you have so many records, if you had, thousands and thousands of records, then these fields are having to auto calculate anytime something changes or when it thinks something has changed. And it could slow things down because these are calculation fields that are actually doing work. But you certainly could go in here into your punch out script, and whenever you do this insert calculated results, what you could do is insert the calculated results into this field, but then add another one of these that inserts the calculated results into the duration, and then do your calculation here. That way, it only actually calculates that particular information the one time, and that's when that script is run. So that's another way of doing that. But this is all this does. This is just meant to give you a quick way to capture punches in, punches out for whatever activity. Obviously, in your solution, depending upon how you plan to use this, you're probably going to want to insert the user ID for the user who actually clicked the button so that you know who clicked it and you know who to give credit for these hours to. If it is some sort of a job log type scenario where you're capturing time against a job, you may also want to insert the job ID that they worked on. So that might be a few extra fields that in your solution, when a new entry is made, it actually either prompts the user or auto inserts that, depending upon where you trigger this from. So this just gives you a starting point, but you're definitely going to want to like modify this and make it your own. This is a single layout. We have one additional layout. I'm sorry, it's a single table solution, a file, but we have one additional layout here that I've given you that kind of describes what these fields do, what the scripts do, how these durations are working, etc. So this solution comes in such a way that you can basically either start with this or copy and paste these fields and codes into your solution to kind of give you a head start on capturing data within your solution. So hopefully that is helpful to you. Again, this solution can be downloaded from our website. Yeah, hopefully this was helpful to you.